Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking a closer look at something incredibly common, almost universal, but maybe not talked about enough. Self-pleasure. It's, an ancestral technique.
hmm
Our sources have pulled together some really fascinating science, and it presents a bit of a paradox, actually. We know it's effective, low-cost pleasure, great for stress relief,
Definitely.
but we have to ask, is the real cost, maybe neurologically or physically, actually higher than we think?
And that's really the mission for us today. We want to move past the myths, past the cultural baggage, and just look at the scientific evidence. What are the real impacts, good and potentially bad, on mental and physical health?
Yeah, try and nail down that question.
Uh,
How much is too much?
exactly. And whether certain ways of doing it might actually, cause sexual health issues instead of helping.
Okay, right. Let's unpack that.
Yeah.
But before we get into the potential problems, the overuse side of things, we really need to establish the benefits because the science confirms they're real, they're powerful, and often pretty immediate.
Absolutely. I mean, the most immediate payoff is that neurochemical cascade you get after an orgasm. Doesn't matter if it's masturbation or partnered sex.
Right.
Your brain gets flooded with oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine, endorphins. It's your body's own mood-boosting cocktail kicking in.
But the sources highlighted something I found really interesting, maybe even more important than just the dopamine hit. These endogenous endocannabinoids, why are they so significant?
Yeah. Well, think of them as your body's built-in chill-out system. They're chemically quite similar to what you find in cannabis, but your body makes them naturally.
Okay.
And what's really fascinating is how closely they're tied to managing stress. They don't just feel good, they actually dial down the body's stress response physiologically.
So it's like a direct counterpunch to cortisol, the stress hormone. And the research says this relaxation, this calming effect, can stick around for up to an hour.
Precisely. And that's a key point the sources make. Using this natural mechanism for stress relief is seen as a much healthier alternative than, say, regularly reaching for anxiety meds or alcohol to get the same effect.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, beyond mood and stress, what about actual disease risk? There's a pretty striking piece of data about prostate health.
Yes, that was from a big observational study back in 2016. It was quite compelling, actually.
What did it find?
It found that men who reported ejaculating more than 21 times per month, that's quite frequent,
Yeah.
had a considerably lower risk of developing prostate cancer compared to guys doing it only, say, 4 to 7 times a month.
Wow, considerably lower.
Yeah, it was a significant difference. It's probably the clearest data point we have regarding a direct disease prevention benefit.
Okay. And it's not just about men, right? What does the research show for women's health?
For women, the main connection highlighted is around pain management. Our sources point to a strong link between masturbation and reducing symptoms of PMS, premenstrual syndrome, specifically helping to ease cramps and associated menstrual pain.
Interesting. Another big one people talk about is sleep. Kind of a natural sleep aid. Does the science back that up?
It does, yeah. It's linked pretty clearly to better sleep quality and, importantly, reduced sleep latency.
Sleep latency.
Yeah,
That's the time it takes to fall asleep.
exactly. You fall asleep faster.
Yeah.
And this benefit seems strongest when it happens, shortly before you actually intend to go to sleep. It leverages that immediate relaxation response.
Right. Gets you into that sleepy state.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this feels like a good moment to tackle a common myth. The idea that holding back, abstinence, is somehow good for fertility.
Oh, yeah, that one persists.
People think semen retention makes sperm healthier or something.
Right. And while, yes, abstinence does increase the volume of semen for a bit,
Okay.
recent evidence actually suggests the opposite effect on quality if you abstain for too long. It can impair sperm quality.
Impair it. How?
Well, it leads to more DNA fragmentation in the sperm, more damage to their mitochondria, their little energy packs. So if you're actually trying to conceive, prolonged abstinence isn't the way to go. You need that turnover, let's say.
Okay, good to clarify. And what about the other myth, the athletic performance one? That holding back boosts testosterone or long-term strength.
Yeah, that's another one that just isn't supported by the science. There is a temporary, very brief spike in testosterone right after orgasm,
Okay.
but it drops back down to baseline levels almost immediately. So no long-term athletic advantage. It's just a myth.
Got it. So we've established these clear benefits: stress reduction, potential disease prevention, better sleep, even busting some myths. That neurochemical reward is powerful.
Definitely, it's like an internal pharmacy.
But now, let's explore the flip side. What happens when we maybe hack that reward system a bit too aggressively? When does this beneficial thing become detrimental? This is where it gets really counterintuitive, I think.
Right. And the first place this shows up is with technique. There's something called traumatic masturbation syndrome, or TMS.
Traumatic. That sounds serious.
Well, it's linked to... And that can actually lead to the opposite problem, sometimes not premature ejaculation, but delayed or tardy ejaculation.
Right.
Or even ED because normal intercourse just doesn't cut it.
How common is that link?
Well, one survey looked at patients who had issues with delayed ejaculation, or ED. Over a third of them, more than 33%, reported a very high frequency, like once a day or even more.
Wow.
And crucially, they used a technique, maybe speed or a certain intense grip or using an object that wasn't skin, that was just, impossible to match during regular partnered sex.
So they've set this incredibly high bar for stimulation in private.
Exactly.
And then the reality of partnered sex, which is naturally less intense perhaps, just feels bland, ineffective.
Yeah, unsatisfying is the word that comes up. And that feeling of dissatisfaction is really important because it links to another potential problem.
Which is?
Which is using the behavior simply to mask bigger life issues. Think about it. Who hasn't used food or maybe a drink to cope when they're stressed or down?
Temporary escape.
It's the same principle. It can become a way to just sort of flee from things like depression or really high anxiety. But it's a temporary fix, and the sources note that often individuals report feeling worse afterwards than before.
That's a key sign. Feeling worse after suggests it was an escape, not really a solution or genuine pleasure.
Right. It signals that it might be covering up something deeper that needs addressing.
Okay, this naturally brings us to, well, the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Pornography. Its relationship with masturbation is undeniable, especially now with how easy access is.
Yeah.
We need to define what problematic use actually means here.
Yeah. And first, just the scale of use is huge. The stats suggest, conservatively, something like over 80% of men and maybe around 30% of women use porn during masturbation. And those numbers are probably low.
Likely underreported, yeah.
Yeah.
So what makes use problematic from a scientific standpoint? It's not just frequency, is it?
No, it's not about a magic number of times per week. The scientific definition hinges on two main things. First, an inability to control your consumption. You want to stop or cut back, but you can't. And second, the degree to which it interferes with other important parts of your life. Things like your job, your relationships, family, social life. If it's negatively impacting those areas, it's becoming problematic.
And what sort of percentage of people who use porn fall into that problematic category?
The estimates vary, but research generally suggests it's somewhere between 5% and maybe 10% of consumers show some signs of problematic use. And the real danger here lies in the neurochemistry.
The dopamine connection again.
Exactly. It can lead to what some sources call a motivational syndrome.
Okay, break that down for us. How does porn use affect the brain's dopamine system?
Well, porn, especially the novelty-driven internet kind, triggers these massive, unnatural spikes of dopamine. Dopamine is your go-get-it neurotransmitter driving motivation and pleasure-seeking.
Yeah.
But when you hit the system with these huge spikes over and over again, the brain tries to protect itself. It compensates by lowering your basal dopamine level.
Basal level. So like your everyday background level of motivation and satisfaction.
Precisely. Your brain's baseline feel-good dial gets turned down, it becomes desensitized.
And the implication for, the listener, what does that feel like day to day?
It means that normal, everyday activities, things that used to feel okay or even rewarding, like reading a book, working on a project, having a nice conversation, they start to feel flat, bland.
Because they can't compete with the artificial high.
They just can't compete. It's very similar to how eating tons of ultra-processed, super sugary food makes healthy, whole food taste boring. You've shifted your reward baseline way up.
Okay, I see the analogy. And this doesn't just affect mood, right? It impacts actual functioning.
Oh, absolutely. It can impair executive function. Simple things that require a bit of effort, making breakfast, focusing on work, getting the kids ready for school, suddenly feel like climbing a mountain. They seem less appealing, harder to initiate.
Less rewarding intrinsically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's the direct impact on sexual life itself. It contributes to difficulty getting or maintaining an erection, a lower overall sex drive or libido, and it fosters this. Well, the sources call it a totally adulterated and unrealistic view of sex.
Creating fantasies that reality can't match.
Right, feeding back into that cycle of dissatisfaction and potentially making partnered sex less appealing or functional.
Okay, so we've seen the benefits, we've seen the potential pitfalls from technique, masking issues, and especially problematic porn use. What does this all mean for someone listening right now trying to figure out their own situation? If there's no magic number, how do you figure out if your frequency or habits are problematic?
Right, that's the key question. We can offer a very general guideline. Maybe 3 to 4 times a week is probably non-problematic for most people, but it is so personal.
Highly individual.
Very. So you really need to ask yourself some honest assessment questions.
Okay, let's go through them. What's the first one?
First, is it interfering with your daily life? Like, are you actually stopping work, ducking out of meetings, or putting off important tasks specifically to go masturbate?
Okay, that's a clear red flag. What's next?
Second, have you stopped doing other things you used to enjoy? Are you turning down plans with friends, skipping hobbies because you'd rather stay home and do this instead?
Okay, number 3.
Third, if you're experiencing issues like erectile dysfunction or maybe premature ejaculation, do these problems noticeably get better when you deliberately reduce your frequency for a period?
Connecting the dots there. And the last one?
And fourth, is it interfering with your actual partnered sex life? Specifically, are you finding it difficult to get or maintain an erection during intercourse with a partner, even if you can achieve orgasm easily on your own?
Okay, so if the answer is yes to one or maybe more of those.
Then it strongly suggests that for you, in your specific case, the frequency or the context or both has become problematic and might be harming your overall well-being.
Right, that makes sense. So if someone answers yes, what are the practical, actionable steps they can take? Where do you start?
Okay, step one, and this is crucial. Get a medical checkup.
See a doctor.
Yes. You absolutely have to rule out any underlying physical causes first. Hormonal imbalances, metabolic issues, things like that can independently cause ED or low libido. Don't just assume it's the masturbation frequency.
Good point. Rule out the physical first. What's step 2?
Step 2 is trying what you could call a dopamine reset or a masturbation fast. Try completely abstaining for, say, 2 weeks.
2 weeks, okay.
Yeah, see what happens. If you notice clear improvements, better sexual function with a partner, improved mood, more motivation, less brain fog, then it's a pretty strong indicator that your previous frequency was likely too high for you.
Okay, a 2-week test. Then step 3, tackling the porn aspect.
Exactly. If you suspect problematic porn use is part of the issue, try eliminating porn completely for those same 2 weeks. Use your imagination instead.
Just rely on your own mind.
Right. And even if use isn't strictly problematic, a general recommendation from the sources for overall improvement is to maybe limit porn viewing to no more than, say, once or twice a week max.
Okay, reduce the external high stimulation input.
Yeah.
Which leads to the final step.
Step 4 is about actively reducing the level of stimulation when you do masturbate.
How do you do that?
Well, if you rely heavily on vibrators, specific toys, or really intense techniques, try switching to using only your hands for a while.
Back to basics.
Kind of, yeah. The goal is resensitization. Just like eating less sugar makes fruit taste sweeter again, reducing the intensity of stimulation can help lower that artificially high bar your nervous system has adapted to. You're trying to get back to a more normal baseline of feeling and responsiveness.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So recapping this deep dive,
Yeah.
the benefits are real and scientifically backed. Stress relief, sleep aid, maybe even some disease protection. Pretty powerful stuff.
Undeniably.
But the risks aren't really in the act itself, are they? It seems to be much more about the context, like masking problems and especially the intensity, particularly when hyper-stimulating pornography gets involved and starts messing with our brain's fundamental reward system.
Exactly. It's about how the behavior fits into your life and whether it's pushing your dopamine baseline so high that, well, normal life starts to feel dull by comparison.
Which brings us perfectly to our final thought for you, the listener, to consider.
Right. We've seen the science connecting these high stimulation activities, like maybe problematic porn use, to a kind of dissatisfaction with everyday reality. So the question to mull over is this. What other potentially high stimulation habits might be in your life right now?
Could be anything.
Yeah, maybe endless social media scrolling, intense video gaming, constant snapping on sugary foods. Could be many things. Are any of those subtly dialing down your appreciation for and interest in the genuine, quieter, but ultimately more rewarding connections and activities that really build a satisfying life?
Something to think about. Where else might you need to reset that dopamine baseline?
Exactly. Food for thought.